Hello, welcome to Advertisers Watching Ads. My name is Tom Ollerton. I'm the founder of Automated Creative, and this is a weekly show where brands watch other brands' ads and discuss what's good and bad about them. We are brought to you by Contagious, so thanks to the guys for finding yet another brilliant and innovative ad. But before we get to it, let's meet this week's guests.
I'm Terrence McLaughlin. I'm a digital media consultant at PepsiCo based out of Purchase, New York.
This is going to be an interesting episode. Let's see this week's ad.
Ma?
Oo?
Ampun po ba ako?
Ha? Sino naman nagsabi sa'yo niyan?
Kasi ma, lagi na akong inaasar sa school eh. Ampun daw ako, ma eh.
Anak, di ba sinabi ko sa'yo huwag ka magpapa-apekto sa sinasabi ng iba?
Pero ma, sabihin mo sa akin, ma. Ampun po ba ako? Ha? Ma! Ampun ba ako? Ha? May paliwanag mo po, ma. May paliwanag mo, bakit may 4 na baso ko sa likod?
Matagal na namin itinago ito sa'yo, anak. Pero sa palagay ko, panahon nang malaman mo.
So, Terrence, what was your initial reaction to that ad?
I have to say it was a bit of a roller coaster. I wasn't sure where it was going. It seemed like it was very emotional in the beginning, obviously, and then it turned into a bit of a joke. Second time I watched it, I think it was a little unsettling seeing that head come off. That was definitely a first of its kind for me. I will say that it was a pretty long spot that took a bit of time to get to showing the product. The joke was a little bit, I don't know if unsavory is the right word, but adoption is a very sensitive topic, and it seems to trivialize that a bit. It's something that I have not seen a lot of brands play with, so it was interesting seeing RC take it this way.
There's lots of things that I love about this advert. As a business, we spend a lot of time optimizing ads to help make sure that investment in long form content actually works. And it's very hard to make story work in short form Facebook and Instagram ads, because if you got 1 second, that, the opening has to be so strong. So I thought, wow. And I was like, where's this going to go? But then the thing that really made it work for me was the strap line, which is like whatever question mark. So their position is not to have a position. Like their place in the market is not to, we don't stand for anything. We're just like, whatever, which is kind of genius. So that kind of hook, the reveal, and then the brand positioning for me, like, is wild. And in a world of brands copying each other and following best practice, I kind of feel that's quite genius, really. But what would have made this better?
One thing they did well was casting. Their actors were well cast, but it was a little too shocking, I think, for some viewers to come away with this and have a positive favorability for the brand, as opposed to something that was a little bit more, they were kind of like a Geico, silly, unrelated, but makes you laugh, and always remember the jokes and the laughs you had when you're watching those spots. But this was not for everybody.
In some ways, this feels like a really long form TikTok, right? You've got setup, you've got twist, and you've got some kind of, well, the call to action isn't sort of necessary on a TikTok, but it's like one of those classic TikToks where you just like, just wait a little bit longer. And then the crazy thing happens and you're like, oh, wow, that's amazing. But then they sort of like ram the brand at the end. So is that what they're doing here? Are they sort of ignoring the parent buying, large format bottles and actually just trying to make them stand out against, some pretty well-funded competitors?
Yeah, it's funny with TikTok, people have found quite an art in holding suspense. There's a a lot of ways that they do that, faster pacing, talking directly at the camera. This definitely had a couple of elements like that. I mean, it was emotionally very raw in the first 30 seconds. So anybody trying to look for, truly a moment of, emotional trauma, that what do they call that? Trauma porn. If they're looking for something a little bit more raw and, trying to actually have a feeling in watching the commercial, they'll stay to watch and see what happens. I'm curious to know how many people actually end up staying and catching the end here, because I think there's only a couple commercials I can think of that would work in this setting where somebody doesn't catch the first 30 seconds, 1 minute of this, and they see some head twisting off to find only a bottle as like the neck bone. I think some people are going to be a little confused if they catch the setup.
What can the industry learn from this ad?
I think that the industry also could take this as a lesson that you don't have to be front and center with your product right at every second of the ad in order for you to have a memorable experience with your consumer. There is a benefit to maybe showing the product earlier in the spot as opposed to having such a long build-up. This is a narrative piece of content that's meant to be watched over the full 90 seconds. So I can respect the creative initiative to kind of build the story along. And I think that that's something that, other brands do really, really well in terms of drawing a connection between what's a probably very funny topic to some creatives and bringing it back all the way to the product. So it's hard to make that connection between a funny creative message and an RC Cola.
Terence, I always ask our guests to give the ad of the week a vote out of 5 using your fingers. So on a count of 3, 1, 2, 3, a 2. Terence, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for being a guest on the show this week.